Hello out there, I'm Jason Andera of Midco Sports, and it's my job literally to hand out the game ball every week to the most deserving South Dakota high school football player. And this week I've chosen Gavin Ross of Harrisburg, who deserves these accolades. But that decision doesn't come lightly. Dozens of you out there are pushing for your guy to get one of these game balls. It's a decision I don't take lightly. I lose sleep every week. And you guys have tons of great suggestions, advice, counsel, and just good-hearted support for your man. And I wanted to include some of those comments in this week's edition of Top Performers. Let's start with Herreid-Selby area's Brendan Begeman. HSA Football tweets, "Brendan has been on this list numerous times. This time he should get it, considering the opponent." It's hard to argue with that, Wolverines. There wasn't much more that BB could do. He went for 229 yards rushing and 78 yards receiving and had another defensive interception to keep the Wolverines unbeaten against another unbeaten team. How about Lincoln Carlson and Jacob Keenholtz? They put up another monster day. Carlson grabbed 7 catches for 193 yards, including this game-clinching touchdown from Jacob Keenholtz, who threw for 358 yards. Another suggestion from Braxton Amundsen. He tweeted, "Stratton Epard is insane." And Tate Hoffman tweeted, "The dude is an animal." And you know what? They're right. Stratton, your 162 yards through the air was almost enough, but you also added 250 more yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns and led your team to a fourth quarter comeback against the 9A defending champs. If those top performers didn't make it hard enough on me, we added 2 more players who rushed for over 300 yards. Ashton Hansen did it with 15 carries and 7 touchdowns to keep his team, Florence-Henry, unbeaten. They won 63-12 over 𝗕𝗹𝗹. Then there's Tate Hoffman. He showed up in a big way to lead Miller-Highmore-Harrold with 356 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. Not to mention 5 tackles on defense. He broke up a couple of passes and forced 2 fumbles. Just like August Mills said on Twitter, a great all-around game for Tate Hoffman. You know who else made a great case for the game ball? Lincoln Keenholtz did. His teammate Jack Merkwon said Lincoln Keenholtz beyond deserves it. Well, most of the time rushing and passing for over 200 yards will do the trick, especially when you add a pick on defense. He was instrumental in the road win over Yankton. Then there's Clay Olinger. As Quentin Christensen points out, Olinger is on a roll. It's his second consecutive 200-plus yard game. He also scored 4 touchdowns and got a pick on defense in their win over Trip Delmont Armor and the Central Dakota Christian. And how about DeSmet's Rhett Austis? I had 3 people nominate the hard-working receiver. He was huge on defense with 8 tackles and a forced fumble. He also got an interception. On offense, 8 catches, 159 yards, and he was clutch on special teams as well, with not 1, but 2 punt returns for touchdowns. Another good point on Twitter, Beat Your Meat says, "It's time to stop the T hate. Jackson Weber deserves this one. You've been hating on T all season long." I'm going to have to disagree. Just like the great 𝗕𝗹𝗹𝗁 Shakur said, "Ain't got nothing but love for ya." Jackson Weber pretty much suits up and gains 100 yards every week, but he doesn't always put up gaudy numbers because he shares the rock, and they usually have a big lead. I see your 14 carries for 134 yards and 2 scores, and he balled out on defense. All those performances were truly insane, but when I watched Gavin Ross at Howard Wood Field and what he did against his competition, I knew who to give the game ball to. Carson Knutson writes, "Gavin Ross's 41 total touches came out huge in a big win against Roosevelt. Gavin had insane production start to finish, was a consistent spark plug, and AAA not to mention. He shouldn't be up against people who are playing less competition. Gavin Ross deserves it." Carson, I feel you. I definitely factor in the performance with the competition level, game situations, as well as the stats. And I can see why you think I'm capping, but trust me, I give all these players much respect. But you're right, we don't see too many 200-yard rushing days in AAA. Ross rumbled through the Rider D all night long. Congrats, Gavin. Keep on ballin'.